What's going on there, everyone? Well, after my first story had me enraged for a good portion of the day, uh, came across this story which just perked me up real good. I tell you what, Alabama's on it right now. I really am digging Alabama. Chemical castration authorized by new Alabama law, rarely used in other states. The fact that this is rarely used is disturbing to me. Let's get into it. This is by Kim Chandler from the Associated Press. It's kind of a long article. I'm going to try to just get the article for the most part over with because, like I said, it is kind of a long article. Some Alabama sex offenders who abuse young children will have to undergo chemical castration while on parole. Under a new law, but the requirement has prompted legal concerns as it appears to be rarely used in some states that allow it. That's stupid. The procedure uses medications that block testosterone production in order to decrease sex drive. The Alabama law says sex offenders whose crimes involve children between ages 7 and 13 must receive the medication before being released from prison on parole. Alabama doesn't allow parole for sex crimes involving children 6 and under. Let me get through this. Let me try to get through this. After Governor Kay Ivey's office announced Monday she had signed the bill, some legal groups raised questions. And can we give a freaking shout out to Governor Kay Ivey? This woman's awesome. She is probably one of the most conservative women I've ever seen in my life, and I think it's just fantastic. Randall Marshall, executive director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Alabama, said there are constitutional concerns with forced medication. Dylan Nettles, a policy analyst at the ACLU of Alabama, said the law harkens back to the dark time in history. It presents serious issues involving involuntary medical treatment, informed consent, privacy, and cruel and unusual punishment, Nettles said. Cruel and unusual punishment to a pedophile that's raped a child. I don't think there's no such thing as cruel and unusual punishment in that. Even if you were to string those people up by their toes and cover them in honey and let ants devour them, that would still not be cruel and unusual in these cases. The bill's sponsor, Republican Representative Steve Hurst of Munford, scoffs at that kind of talk, as he should. How in the world can it be any more cruel and inhumane than to molest a child? Ugh. I want someone to answer that one for me, but they can't, Hurst said. Hurst says he hopes the medication will protect children by stopping abusers from reoffending. At least 7 states have laws authorizing chemical castration in some form, but its effectiveness can vary. The hormonal treatment can be used for a subgroup of offenders whose crimes are driven by sexual attraction to children and want to reduce those urges, said Dr. Frederick Berlin, who treats patients with sexual disorders at Johns Hopkins Hospital and at an independent clinic. However, he has concerns about blanket criminal justice approach without evaluating the appropriateness in each case. Speaking now as a physician, I think it is absolutely inappropriate to use a medical treatment as a criminal sanction, Berlin said. He said it's not effective for people whose crimes were driven by drugs, mental illness, or other issues. That is true. I mean, I understand that. That makes a little bit of sense to me. These laws tend to go on the books because people understandably are frightened. They want to protect children, which I hope every reasonable person wants to do, Berlin said. At its worst, I think the motivation, if we are just going to say it crudely, we are just going to castrate the bastard, or at its best, a misunderstanding and lack of understanding when it would and when it wouldn't be medically appropriate. The stereotypical child molester is male, but a fraction of sex offenders are women. Berlin said the situation is more complicated for women because of hormonal balance involved in the menstrual cycle and maintaining pregnancy. But treatment with a drug like Depo-Provera has been used to help some women gain better sexual self-control. Male or female, the penalties have to be extraordinarily harsh. I mean, extraordinarily harsh. You do not want to know what I think should happen to these people, because a lot of people would probably be perturbed by that. California was the first state to pass such a law in 1996, which is a surprise. Ike Dotson, a spokesman with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, said it is rarely used there. 2 parolees are currently receiving treatment. Dotson said one of them is mandated to receive it under law, and the other one requested it voluntarily. Kudos, I guess, to that person for at least knowing that they are sick and they got a problem. Prison officials in Montana and Louisiana told the Associated Press last year that they're aware of only one case in each state in the last decade in which a judge ordered the treatment. Texas even allows repeat sex offenders to opt for surgical castration. Texas and Florida did not have numbers immediately available on use. Georgia had a chemical castration statute but repealed it. Oregon also had a pilot program, chemical castration, but it was repealed. The Alabama law says a judge shall order the treatment as a condition of release and will require parolees to receive an initial dose of medication before leaving prison and to receive additional doses after leaving. A judge would then decide when they could stop. They would be billed for the medication, although fees would be waived for those who couldn't afford it. The law also says an Alabama Health Department employee must administer the medication after an inmate's release from prison. Lawmakers say it's constitutional because it only applies when an inmate seeks release on parole. Inmates who opt to serve their entire sentence would not have to take the medication. I think it's constitutional because it's not mandatory. Alabama's Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Cam Ward said. He also said it would apply to a small group of sex offenders. Hearst began pushing the legislation more than a decade ago after hearing the story of an infant who was sexually abused. He originally proposed permanent surgical castration, but he was told by the state's then Attorney General that would be found unconstitutional. The proposal went nowhere in the State House for more than a decade before it won final passage this year on a quick vote in the Senate. Hearst said it may have prevailed because people didn't notice it. Hearst said he's open to improvements in the law and would like to see a university involved in a future study on effectiveness. That would be a problem because universities are crap. But for him, it comes down to simple justice. If they are going to mark those children for life, they need to be marked for life. My real feelings are that they need to die, Hearst said. The law takes effect this year. Well, bravo to Alabama. They are on fire. They are on fire. And I tell you what, it does have its issues right now, and yes, it probably will be revisited to maybe have some changes involved in better wording and all that stuff. But I got to say, that's great. I mean, the fact that some of these people even get paroled is unnerving, because most predators, like those type of people, it's in their head. It's a mental deficiency of some sort that they have. So I don't know. I'm grateful that they are trying to do something. Does it go far enough? I don't know. Does it go too far? I wouldn't say it goes too far at all. I would be more on me personally, just my opinion, I believe we could go a little further with it. I mean, how can you take up for a child molester? How can you take up for those people? I just don't see it. I just don't see how anybody could take up for anybody who harms a child. I am a father, and my God, if anyone harmed a hair on my son's head, they better hope they're in jail, because that may be the only way I can't get to them. But yeah, I think this is a great thing. I would love to hear your comments, whether you're for or against this, or whether you're kind of on the fence about it. I would just love to hear anybody's comments on this. I personally think this is a great start, and it's probably going to be revisited for sure. But it's a great start, and kudos to Alabama for enacting this law. But as always, like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.